Ladies and gentlemen, we are closing day one with an exciting keynote and fireside chat on how generative AI is transforming personalized finance. Please join me in welcoming the CEO of YTL AI Labs and Chief Product Officer of the YTL C Digital Bank Project, a leading fintech CTO with a track record of building AI-driven solutions, Chi Mun Fong.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name is Chiman, and this is a quick introduction of myself. And I'm born and bred in KL. And after studying secondary school here, I went to university in the US, at Purdue University. When I was there, that was during the boom, the internet boom, during the middle 90s. So that was when internet was born. I think for the younger guys, there were times that internet wasn't available. So that was during the boom of the internet time in the US at the time. So when I was at Purdue, I had my first brush with AI in the sense that I started working at an AI lab is using AI to do human behavior predictions and human behavior modeling. So the only reason why I wanted to work there is because the AI lab actually paid a lot of money. So that was my first brush with AI. And when I was graduating, the professor of the AI lab approached me and asked me if I want to start a company with him to provide the AI service to specifically the Department of Defense in the US. The Department of Defense was the major sponsor of the lab, but the lab cannot do secret work because it has to publish papers in conferences. So we started the AI boutique research company, mainly serving Fortune 500 companies, and also obviously the Department of Defense as well. We did that for about 12 years. We sold it to a much bigger defense contractor, and that ended the first part of my career, which I learned a lot of stuff, including not just computer science stuff, not just AI stuff, but the appreciation for social sciences, because to model good human behavior, you need to know economics, behavioral economics, psychology, and other social sciences as well. So when I left the research boutique, me and a couple of buddies started this digital bank in the US called MoneyLion. And when we started it, we were in New York, and it was still small. I think we had 5 people at the time. Problem with running or starting a company with your drinking buddies is that your wife thinks that you drink all the time, which is only half true. We drink all the time, but we work as well. And during that time, my wife got pregnant, and so we decided as a trade-off, we will move back to KL for 2 years with the intention of moving back to New York City after 2 years. That's what we told investors. So we moved back to KL, but obviously after 2 years, you see, I asked my wife, hey, do you want to move back to New York City? And he said, no, I really like KL, and I don't want to move back. And I agree with her. That was, so I don't just listen to my wife, okay? Sometimes I have my own opinion as well. So then, when I was here, we decided to hire like 4 people, because I'm the CTO, right? So we were here, we decided to hire 4 people, and from that 4 people, you know, I'm generally an introverted guy, I don't have many friends, but from the 4 people, we ballooned to about like 300 people right now, and I think it's close to 400 people right now. And the good thing is that, like, at this point, some people were telling me, wow, it's amazing accomplishment that you had, is because it's really hard to hire talent in KL. I didn't know. And it's not because I didn't listen to my friends. It's because I don't have many friends. So that's, but we did grow it to about 300 to 400 people. Most of them are engineers, but we have about an AI team of 80 to 100 people, maybe. And we were one of the first employers of AI at the time. I still remember we were trying to hire for this role called AI PM. Now it's extremely prevalent. When the HR asked me, hey, do you have JD for it? We know there is a problem with regular PM because a regular PM always don't understand the probabilistic nature of AI. So we know we have to hire sort of like a data scientist who wants to become a PM. So we just told the HR to combine like a data scientist role and a PM role. So that was the first lesson that I have, that if you don't continuously be hiring or making up JDs for that matter, you're probably not innovating. And that it was a great experience in Moneyline. We listed it and in NYSE, so there was a good achievement for myself, and I get to learn how to set up and run a reasonably scaled technical and AI team. Not just that, I get to run the product team to a certain degree as well, and that teach me how to do strategy and how to do other part of the company functions such as marketing, such as sales as well. So, and fast forward 10 years, I realized all of my career is about 10 years. So, after 10 years, I decided like the night meetings are catching up with me, and decided to, after the IPO too, have a bit of money, so decided to retire for a little bit. And the objective is to retire for a year, because of the 10 years in Moneyline, I was really busy. I didn't spend too much of time with my family. It's my strong belief that it's not about the quality time that you spend with your family, it's the quantity of time that you spend with your family. I think that matters the most. I think looking back, sometimes is the boring time that you appreciate the most with your family. So that's what I decided to do, to launch my first phase of retirement. It was fun. I strongly recommended it for everyone to take a break from your work. If you can afford it. It's because I think a startup journey sort of like pull you in different directions. So you are like a rubber piece of paper. So it's always good to have time to let it shrink back to its own shape. That's what I did. But after 4 months into my retirement, this chap a friend of mine called Han Yo, called me and say, hey, we're building a digital bank. And we want to build it with the forefront of technology and with artificial intelligence as well. And we look around, you're possibly the only one who has actually built it before in Southeast Asia. So the thing about this chap called Hanyo is that when he has an objective, he generally works hard to get to the objective. So after that, I realized that he actually talked to 5 of my friends and probably know that there are a couple of buttons that he needs to push, which is AI and forefront technology, and you just say that, and I would just jump right in. That's what I did, and it was interesting talk with my wife. Is that hey, you know what I say about the quantity of time? Maybe we go back to the quality of time. And then we started the bank. We started building for the bank. It was interesting for me. We want to have a minimalist amount of technical workforce, and because I personally think that there were two junctures of technology that were converging at the time. One is AI, which is helping a lot of productivity, especially from a programming standpoint. Large language models, generative AI, is really good at languages, but the best languages that it is really good at are programming languages. And the second wave of technology is local technology. I believe that we will be able to build a full-fledged CRM, potentially with just one engineer in 6 months. And essentially we did that. That was a great time. And around that time, about 6 months after that, Han came to me and said, hey, you know, like we are really investing into this AI thing, and we really want you to lead this entity called YTL AI Lab as well. The function of it is to bridge the hardware to the actual usage of AI in government departments, in banks, in companies. So I started leading that. And he also said that, hey, I also don't want you to leave the bank. So YTL being YTL, we pay you one salary that usually have you to do 2 jobs. That's a quick history of myself and how I became here. And Bing is here, who is my colleague. Don't tell Han I say all the stuff. So we're going to talk about platform shifts and how that leads to generative AI. So what are platform shifts? Platform shifts are technological advancement that doesn't just evolutionarily increase the output or increase the quality of our lives. It changes the whole ecosystem. It forces the new type of company that come to the fore, and potentially some of the companies that cannot follow will just drop off from the competition landscape. So it mattered because it really shaped our lives. As you guys know, internet shaped our lives, mobile phones shaped our lives significantly. So, and I'm going to talk about 3 platform shifts that we encountered during my lifetime, okay? So maybe some of you guys haven't gone through some of it. So the first one is the internet platform shift. So during the mid-90s or early 90s, internet was invented. And what it does is that it democratizes the distribution of digital data, right? So, and it brings the cost of distribution to 0. If you think about news, once upon a time, you have some kid who told you the newspaper, and there was a cost to it. And there was something called the printing press, simply because you print it, and then there's a distribution channel to get the newspaper to you. But that all went to almost nothing, right? Simply because the cost of distribution becomes 0. So when you have this kind of stuff, you will have companies being pushed to the fore, and there are companies that lost the war. So the winner are obviously the names that we are very familiar with in this day and age, such as Amazon, Shopee, Lazada, and the content provider such as Malaysia Kini. It's tough to exist during the printing time, but now because of prevalence of internet, it becomes easy to exist. New York Times used to be only distributed around New York area. The most it will go to like DC area, but now its subscriber comes from all around the world. So these are the kind of channels that completely democratize the digital data. The advertising landscape completely changed because it's easier to target the right people. Once upon a time, if you advertise in newspaper, only the readers of that specific localized newspaper that you get to target. But now with advertising, you can be very specific to even age of the users and whatnot. SaaS It's once upon a time, if you're old enough, you remember that string wrap software that you buy from the shop and install it back home. But now it almost doesn't exist anymore. You have Gmail, you have Salesforce that took over from the old times. So you have the losers. You always have losers, right? Obviously, DVD stores, you've never seen it anymore. In Malaysia, there were like guys who are peddling DVDs. You don't see those guys either. Brick and mortar places such as Sungai Wang, a good place to like Lazada and whatnot. It still exists, but you don't want to go there. Content providers, they are older generation content provider. Sadly to say, the Star, Astro radio stations that used to thrive on distribution channel, like how good their distribution channel is. When that part of it became democratized, they become a lot less important than before. Advertising agencies, for those people who watch the show Mad Men, you realize that those kind of people doesn't exist anymore. Software in boxes, Intuit, and none of these guys, much of them don't exist anymore. So, and then we are talking about the second platform shift that we have encountered, which is cloud computing. And essentially what cloud computing is that like it started at 2006 when Amazon launched EC2. It's mainly for their own usages, but then they decided to sell it to everyone else as well. And then the big three quickly, or actually not that quickly, jumped into the fray as well. But Amazon had like a great lead even until today. And to me, this is a much greater platform shift than the internet platform shift, simply because it changed the way I do stuff significantly. And it's further popularized by containers such as Docker, such as Kubernetes. These are the kind of technology that allow you to deploy your application very easily in the cloud. So what kind of cost does it displace, right? So it allows you to scale with very little friction, right? Once upon a time, if you want to scale, you have to order your Dell servers, your whatever servers, and then you have to have a guy to plug in all the network equipment and stuff like that. So there was like a lead time and there was like a cost to it. But now it's entirely different, right? So you get to scale up whenever you have a lot of demand, and you get to scale down whenever you don't need the demand. So again, with all of this, there are winners and there are losers, right? So the big three are the winners, and obviously this doesn't take into consideration the Chinese ones. The Chinese ones are also huge as well. Small, medium enterprise are able to afford really sophisticated infrastructure, technical infrastructure that they used to not be able to afford. Startups, once their service seems to be, there seems to be a lot of demand for their service, they scale up significantly. Right? Nowadays, Google and Facebook are $1 trillion companies, so it's really tough. You actually have to build your own infrastructure for it. Cloud databases, these are databases that we used to never heard of, Databricks, Snowflake, that only exist in cloud. And it beats the old timers such as Oracle, MSQL, and all those guys. So again, the traditional software are the losers of it. IT department and stuff, like nowadays, there are very little IT departments that work serving servers. And then you have traditional IT vendors as well that pretty much became dinosaur. So, and then the third revolution is the mobile revolution. So in 2007, there's a release of the first iPhone. And Android released immediately, almost immediately after, and 4G rolled out. We have the Yes CEO here, and I'm quite sure he remembers all of this. So the cost that it displays is customer engagement. Suddenly you have a supercomputer in your pocket, so which means that your engagement with all of your digital channels became 24/7 almost, right? Except when you sleep. So all of these stuff have effects, right? So when your cost of customer engagement becomes zero, then it gives rise to different type of companies. For example, Grab, right? So when you have a cell phone, it is essentially a combination of a lot of sensors, so including GPS. So Grab essentially, or Uber essentially, displays all the call centers for taxis and changes the way taxis have been working for quite some time. And you have video apps, right? Once upon a time, we buy DVDs, we buy cassettes, but nowadays you just log on to YouTube or Netflix and you get all the content that you want, all the entertainment that you want. And App Store owners, there are only two or three in the world, and it's extremely profitable for these guys. So losers, the initial handset maker like Nokia, BlackBerry, Palm, and just because the device combines so much stuff together, including good quality camera, nowadays the camera companies are suffering as well. Traditional linear TV suffered as well because people no longer want to watch certain program at certain time. It is usually just deliver whenever you want it to be. So then it leads us to AI. Right? I think we can start calling it a platform shift because it changes a lot of stuff, and I think it is going to touch a lot of our lives, much more of our lives than the previous platform shifts. So AI isn't new, as pointed out by one of the panel just now. It was invented in the 1940s. Essentially, much of the algorithm were conceived. A lot of the algorithm that we're using right now were conceived then. However, there are a lot of innovations during our era as well, as we'll see. So it starts in the 40s, and then it goes into the 60s. But during the 90s, it is not a very thriving field until the 90s, where it suddenly have a renaissance. Mainly when Deep Blue beats Kasparov in chess, it shocks a lot of people. However, the downside of it is that they start using Deep Blue in other application other than chess, and it wasn't very successful at all. So at the time, you have like SVMs being introduced. These are, in this day and age, we call it the classical machine learning algorithms, which can still be quite useful depending on the computational power that you have. And then we get into the era of deep learning during the early 2010s. All right, so that's when AlexNet won the ImageNet competition. The ImageNet is a database of labeled images that were created by Fei Li, one of the famous computer scientists in this field. And then you can see the improvement will just improve significantly, and they realized that with more computation, and more data, they are able to significantly increase the intelligence of the neural network. So then in 2017, there is another breakthrough in the form of transformer. All right. So on the paper, attention is all you need. It came from Google. But when they publish it, they think it's a big deal, but it took another company, that OpenAI, to sort of make the breakthrough of saying that, of creating a chatbot that closely mimic most human and much smarter than most human. So you can see how ChatGPT was being released, that's when it came into the public attention, and a lot of people started paying attention to AI at the time. So when I think about AI, I like to think about like what the system do, right? Because all AIs are still systems, right? So systems that work, right? So the first kind of AI that we had is really systems that learn, as in the name machine learning, right? So you deploy the algorithms. It either learns by itself or it helps you to learn. So during the 1990s, data mining is big. You run algorithms that let you look at different trends easily, and is being used in a lot of e-commerce platforms at the time, and it's still being used in a lot of e-commerce platforms. And we start having a lot of open source tools. And then it transformed into big data analysis, right? And this is the juncture where this is the combination of the internet where it frees the digital data and it creates more digital data, and thus we have a lot of data. And then with the cloud platform shift, we have a lot of computation that you can summon up with very little cost. So with vast amount of data, we start inventing algorithms that look into vast amount of data and be able to reveal hidden insights. And it better guide decisions for especially digitally savvy companies. Then we move into, especially in the deep learning era, we move into systems that predict. So, and again, similarly, these are a class of algorithm called supervised learning. So which means that you give it data of a whole bunch of variables, and then finally you have a target variable that you learn towards, right? So for example, if you have credit data, you have like the age of the person, address of the person, anything, height of the person, then you correlate it to how well the person has been paying off your loans. So prediction has been used. Most of the good thing about this prediction algorithm, the deep learning algorithms, is that it's being very prevalently used, and most of you guys are using it and do not realize it, right? So, for example, Amazon product recommendation or any product recommendation in Shopee or Lazada runs through all these machine learning models, supervised machine learning models, in order to display the kind of product recommendation. Generally, it knows what kind of other product that you like, and look at other people who like the kind of product and learn from it. And you can see like a recommendation system is a big one, from video recommendation to movie recommendation, songs, Facebook, every one of your feed different from anyone else. So the only way to do it is by this kind of scaled recommendation systems. And finally, with the Gen AI era, we have systems that create. And it becomes so popular that it became the fastest app to arrive at 1 million users in 2 days, right? Versus any other popular platforms that we have ever seen. And this kind of technology is so effective that it passes like most of the professional exam that we hold high regards on, right? For example, like the bar exam, the medical exam, and even wine tasting exams, right? So you can see, so it generally perform better than 80% of the exam takers. In this particular case, in MedPalm, which is a model by Google, is even crazier, is scoring at higher than professional exam taker. Like, it's not scoring higher than doctors, right? It's scoring higher than the doctors whose job is to take exam. So this is how good it is. So how do we go from now, right? So you have system that does all the stuff that we just mentioned, but I think going forward, the system will be able to do a lot more. System will be able to empathize, will able to evolve, and will be able to assist people, and will be able to reason with you or reason with itself. So it really means that cost of intelligence becomes close to zero. So with Gen AI, one of the main shift of thinking is that for the longest time, we live in a world where all the computers are von Neumann computers. So what does that mean, right? So von Neumann computers are computer systems that take a set of computer instructions and always output the same set of output, right? So once upon a time, we go to a terminal and go to a shell. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember it. So you have to learn the language of the shell language, right? So that's how you tell the computer to do what you want them to do. So it is the language of the computer. And then after Apple was born, we move into a new era of computing where instead of learning how to type specific command, you interact with a mouse. So you have UX, right, user interface. So which means that you still tell the computer to do something, but it is through a user interface that is generally built by a group of engineers and product people, and you translate that into computer language that also give you deterministic output. However, with the generative AI revolution, you have the LLM as your computer, right? So the users actually pose natural language, the language that we use on a daily basis, to the LLM. And because language is not something that is deterministic, a word can mean a lot of things. Thus, the output becomes probabilistic, which means that given the same instruction to the computer on natural language, the output can be different sometimes. So because of these big change in the nature of interactions with computer, I think in finance, there are two types of interactions that we can expect that we can see innovation from now on, right? The first type is that human talking to an LLM, and in turn, the LLM will instruct a whole bunch of agents to do whatever that the human wanted to do. Or secondly, because the LLM, the large language model are able to understand human language. So which means that it is also be able to ingest a whole bunch of artifacts, like articles, news articles, books, that were generated for human consumptions, and will be able to understand it, and will be able to create agents out of it as well. So, and these are the examples of how it is being used in potentially like financial institutions. And this is closely inspired by a use case that our Chief Risk Officer told me. So essentially, this is a risk-based system where it ingests news articles from around the world 24/7, and what it output is like a risk rating and signals, and if it potentially relevant to a bank, it will signal the right personnel. So you can see a lot of people think that AI will replace human tasks, but in this particular case, it doesn't replace human tasks. In this particular case, it does a superhuman task where a human can't possibly ingest like all these news articles 24/7 and be vigilant all the time. And then the second use case that we have in a bank is that instead of having you to click through a few screens, banking agents nowadays will be able to take in chats, commands, natural language commands, pictures, and also voice to be able to instruct the computer system to do something, such as payments or deposit and onboarding. So these are the samples of like potential commands that we have that we can use to command the computer system to do something like pay Shafiq $26 for lunch. You can also, it will be able to understand like short forms as well, please transfer. It will be also able to understand multiple languages as well. And beyond that, like if you have like, if you go out with 2 other friends for beer, you can instruct the LLM to do math as well. The other thing is that you can combine 2 actions together, potentially sending the same amount of money to 2 person. That is possible, and something that combine 2 different actions together, potentially pay someone a certain amount and let her know when the transfer is complete, potentially send him messages or WhatsApp messages. So the other thing we can do with a large language model, or in this particular case, a visual language model, is to be able to take in screenshots, right? Most of us, sometimes you get a WhatsApp instruction from your friend. So like this, then you will be able to upload it to the app, and it will generate a payment instruction out of the images. And or invoices for that matter, because most of the payment instructions are within the invoices, so the computer, the large language model will be able to generate it. So the kit that I was talking about just now, he's 11-year-old right now, and it's really expensive. So these are the new generation of interactions with computer system that generally we don't see in the industry, and I hear certain rumors that these features might be launching at a certain bank. I cannot tell you which bank it is, but you can guess. So let's talk about something that is slightly more hairy about AI, right? So AI is a combination of data plus compute and algorithm. So this is a paper that came out about 2 or 3 months ago. It talks about the political leaning of much of the large language model out there, right? So, like I say, large language model is not just about language, it's about knowledge as well, it's about cultural sensibility as well, right? So and this is measuring from like the left leaning to right leaning to libertarian to authoritarian. So as you can see, these are not the kind of political leaning that generally Malaysia has. This is mostly like a US-based type of political leaning. And this is why something like an LLM is really close to your culture, and it's really close to the culture of the people who built it. So which really mean that most of the people who build LLM in the US, and these are mostly the US LLMs, are left libertarian leaning people. So which means that do we, as a country, as a country itself, and as we embark or use more AI services, right, and more digital services in general, then our reliance on the digital infrastructure becomes more important, the AI infrastructure becomes more important, and thus, it makes sense for us to question the kind of ingredient that goes into providing these kind of services. And when we question the ingredient of it, the risks of it are kind of obvious. A lot of the cloud providers in this day and age, or AI providers in this day and age, are the big three, the AWS, Google, and Microsoft, right? So these are foreign entities. The data that you store inside Amazon, even if the Amazon data center is in Malaysia, is mostly being governed by the US law because it is a US company after all, right? So, and if the data itself is not being stored in Malaysia, then if the government decide to, or if the court decide to subpoena the data, the other government might disagree if they want to give you the data or not. So it becomes a bit of a hairy situation. So, and this kind of geopolitical risk is real, as we all experience it. When Google suspend businesses with Huawei phone, Huawei have to come up with their own shops and their sales drop significantly. How the US is banning certain chips from China to slow down their AI evolution. So these are the kind of reliance that can be dangerous to a country. So, which really means that we really need to have a sovereign cloud, right? What does that mean, right? Like a cloud that potentially the owner of it is subjected to Malaysian legislation. The cloud is physically in Malaysia, so that you take out the complexity of another government having to approve certain subpoena, right? The cloud is operated by people that are residing in Malaysia, and to establish a catalog of AI engines that potentially help companies to build tools to utilize AI. So with this kind of attribute to a cloud, it becomes really expensive, and the capex for it is, and the complexity of running it is quite immense. So what kind of company that are willing to invest into this, right? Good that you asked, right? Because YTL is building the first Malaysia AI cloud. So it is a 500 megawatt AI data center. Just so you know how big 500 megawatt is that. Right now, all the data centers that are running in Malaysia, when you sum them all together, is 260 megawatt. So this will provide ample amount of computation coming forward. So investment is huge. I usually don't look at the investment because there are too many zeros. It's confusing. So it will be residing in Johor. And this is a new type of data center in the sense that like this 500 megawatt demand for power is being complemented by 500 megawatt of solar panel. So this will be the first type of solar-driven data center in Southeast Asia. And then you think about it, LLM is language plus knowledge plus cultural sensibility, right? So it's important. And most of the LLMs, large language models right now, is being created by either the Chinese or the Americans. So our cultural sensibility is generally not being heeded very much. And not just that, our language, right? Like the Malay language is what we call the low resource language. So what do we do about it, right? So this organization that I lead, it's called YTL AI Labs. So what we did is that we published the first Malay MMLU with the collaboration of a team in So what does MMLU mean, right? So MMLU is a benchmark to test large language models. In this particular case, because it's Malay MMLU, so all the questions are in Malay. So it is a multiple choice question set of questions. It's a set of 24,000 questions that we derive from educational material for K1 to 12, right? So the first MMLU was done in the US, in Berkeley, and that was like the benchmark for all other large language model to sort of like, it's an exam for large language model. If you perform better, the better you are. And this is our sort of exam for Malay languages, but it doesn't just measure how good it is in Malay. It measures how good it is in Malay from a few dimensions, such as firstly language, obviously, humanities, STEM, social sciences, and others. So you can see that directionally, the smarter large language models perform better, and you can see the direction is generally quite correct. And you can see the performance of the LLM generally degrade as the harder material is, like the higher form is. And lastly, I want to talk about how Malaysia is in the situation of AI in Malaysia, right? So this is really not my slide. This is a slide by a consultant that we talked to. So there is no question in most situation or in most discipline, from the data to hardware to LLM apps, the US and China are by far the leaders, right? And then you have the followers, which are usually the EU people, the British, and then followed by Korea, Singapore. We, however, at NILAS, we are generally slightly better than Thailand, slightly worse than Indonesia. So that's not a very flattering place to be in. So, however, that just means that we still have a lot to do in AI as a nation to become like an AI-driven nation, right? So, but I think there's nothing wrong in Malaysia that cannot fix by what is right about Malaysia. So, for me, personally, as an entrepreneur, as an engineer, I think future is self-fulfilling. So, which means that what you want, which probably a lot of you guys want, and that's why you guys are here, is that you want AI to be used for good, you want AI to affect the lives of everyone, and thus, in order to achieve that, I think all of us have to work together to build for it. And for Malaysia to be an AI-driven nation, I think we all have to play our roles. If you work for big companies, find ways to put more AI into your processes. And if you're startup people, build solutions. So yeah, and this is my presentation. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chimon Fong, for the keynote and fireside session just now. That wraps up day one of SC by SC FinTech Summit 2024. Thank you all for joining us today.